The giant meeting room of the Galactic Council was filled with smoke, not from fire, but from the breathing systems of a dozen different alien types. The room buzzed with scared whispers. On the big screen at the front, red dots showed star systems that were already gone, eaten up, destroyed. "Another system lost," announced Head Councillor Dak, his blue skin turning pale as he pointed at the newest red dot. "That's the third one this week." The energy wave had appeared 3 months ago. At first, it was just a small, strange reading at the edge of the galaxy. Nothing to worry about, the experts said, but then it grew and moved and consumed everything in its path. Now it was heading toward the center of the galaxy, where most people lived. "Our best shields do nothing against it," said Science Director Lin, her forearms gesturing wildly at the charts. "It's like the wave isn't even from our universe. It passes through everything we put up." The room grew louder as the different alien groups argued among themselves. The tall tree-like Florans wanted to evacuate everyone. The rock-skinned Montarians thought they should try to blow up the wave with their biggest weapons. The cloud-like Vapories suggested they could try to change the wave's path with gravity machines. But each plan had problems. There wasn't enough. Time to evacuate trillions of people. The biggest weapons they had already failed when they tried them last week, and the gravity machines would take years to build. Ambassador Tay sat quietly at the back, watching. His people, the Arcturians, were known for being calm and thoughtful. They had been part of the Galactic Council for 8,000 years. They had seen many crises come and go, but this one felt different. This one might be the end of everything. "We keep talking in circles," Tay finally said, standing up. The room quieted down to listen. "We have the smartest minds from 100 worlds here, yet we can't agree on anything. We're too careful, too afraid to take risks." Head Councillor Dak frowned. "What would you suggest, Ambassador? We've tried everything." Tay took a deep breath. What he was about to suggest would be shocking to many. "Not everything," he said. "There is one species we haven't asked for help." The room was silent for a moment. Then, as people realized what he meant, angry voices rose up again. "The humans? Are you serious? They've only been spacefaring for 200 years. They're barely civilized. They still fight wars among themselves." Tay waited for the noise to die down. "Yes, they're young. Yes, they're still figuring things out, but they think differently than us." Science Director Lin shook her head. "That's exactly the problem. They're unpredictable, emotional. They take crazy chances." "Exactly," said Tay, cutting her off. "When have any of our careful, logical plans worked against this wave? Maybe we need something unpredictable now." The council members looked at each other uneasily. Humans had joined the galactic community only 50 years ago. They were the newest members by far. Most species had thousands of years of space travel before being invited to join, but humans had advanced so quickly that the council couldn't ignore them. Still, many found humans unsettling. They laughed too loudly. They asked too many questions. They didn't follow proper protocols, and they seemed to enjoy dangerous situations in a way that made no sense to the older species. "I've spent time with them," Tay continued. "They have this saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When faced with impossible problems, they don't give up. They get creative." Head Councillor Dak looked tired. He had been awake for days, watching more and more systems go dark on his screen. "What do we have to lose?" he finally said. "The wave will reach the central systems in 3 months. None of our plans are working." The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was enough. The council would ask Earth for help. As the meeting ended, Tay felt both relieved and worried. Relieved that they might finally try something new. Worried about what the humans might do. They were unpredictable, yes, but that was their strength. As he walked out, Science Director Lin caught up with him. "I hope you know what you're doing," she said quietly. "These humans, they might make things worse." Tay looked at the latest images of the energy wave. It had grown again, swallowing another small star system. "Things are already getting worse," he said. "Sometimes you need to fight fire with fire, or in this case, chaos with chaos." The message to Earth was sent that day. The Galactic Council, for the first time in its 50,000-year history, was officially asking for help from its youngest member. No one knew what would happen next. But everyone knew nothing would be the same again. The Earth Orbital Station New Horizon was the pride of humanity. It hung in space like a shining wheel, slowly turning to create gravity for the 10,000 people who lived and worked there. Today the station was buzzing with excitement and nervousness. An official Galactic Council delegation was coming, the first ever to visit Earth directly. "They're here," announced Station Director Park over the speakers. "All personnel not involved in the welcome ceremony, please continue with your regular duties." But nobody could focus on regular duties. People found excuses to walk past the viewing windows or lingered near the main docking bay. It wasn't every day that the most powerful beings in the galaxy came to visit. The council ship was beautiful and strange. It looked like flowing silver water, somehow frozen in the shape of a teardrop. It docked with impossible precision, not making even the slightest sound or bump that humans were used to with their own ships. Ambassador Tay led the delegation of 7 council representatives. Each was from a different species and moved differently as they floated or walked or slithered. From their ship, the humans stared, trying not to be rude but failing. "Welcome to Earth Station New Horizon," said Director Park with a deep bow. "We are honored by your presence." The aliens seemed uncomfortable with the noise and activity of the station. They flinched at the sound of laughter from somewhere down the hall. They looked nervously at the children who were being quickly hushed by their parents, but still peeked around corners to see the visitors. "We must speak with your leaders immediately," said Ambassador Tay. His translator made his voice sound flat and emotionless. "The situation is dire." Within an hour, they were all gathered in the station's conference room. The United Earth government had sent their top officials. Scientists and military leaders joined by video from Earth. The room was crowded, warm, and full of the energy that always seemed to follow humans wherever they gathered. As ambassador, Tay explained about the energy wave destroying star systems. The room grew quieter. He showed videos of planets being swallowed by what looked like glowing purple fog. He explained how the wave was accelerating and would reach Earth in less than a year. "Our best scientists and strategists have found no solution," Tay concluded. "We have come to ask if humans might have a different perspective." There was silence for a moment. The council members looked at the humans, expecting fear or panic. Instead, they saw something they didn't understand: interest, curiosity, even excitement in some faces. Director Park cleared her throat. "Thank you for bringing this to us, Ambassador. We'll need to assemble a special team, and I know just who should lead it." She pressed a button on her communicator. "Please send in Captain June." Captain June walked in a few minutes later. He wasn't what the council members expected. He wasn't tall or particularly impressive looking. He walked with a slight limp from an old injury. But his eyes were sharp and missed nothing as he quickly assessed everyone in the room. "Captain June was our top Special Forces commander before becoming a diplomat," explained Director Park. "He specializes in impossible situations." June bowed respectfully to the aliens. "I understand we have a problem," he said simply. As ambassador, Tay repeated the explanation about the energy wave. June listened without speaking. He asked to see the videos again and again. He requested data about the wave's composition, speed, and behavior patterns. "Have you tried communicating with it?" June finally asked. The council members looked at each other in confusion. Communicate? With an energy wave? Science Director Lin's translator couldn't hide her disbelief. "It's not alive. It's a phenomenon. A disaster." June shrugged. "Maybe, or maybe it's something else. Have you sent any signals into it? Radio waves, light patterns?" "That would be pointless," said another council member, his rocky skin grinding slightly as he shifted in his too-small chair. But June was already moving on to other ideas. He called in human scientists, who immediately began asking questions the council had never considered. Within hours, the conference room walls were covered with notes, diagrams, and crazy-looking sketches. The council delegation watched in growing amazement as the humans worked. They argued loudly with each other. They made jokes about the end of the world. They suggested ideas that seemed completely impossible or ridiculous. "What about converting the wave's energy pattern?" suggested one scientist. "Or creating a counterwave," said another. "Could we go into it? Send a ship to study it from inside?" This last suggestion made Ambassador Tay actually gasp. Enter the wave? Everything that touches it is destroyed, or transformed, said June thoughtfully. We don't actually know what happens to the matter it consumes, do we? The humans kept working through the night. They ordered food, spicy, strong-smelling dishes that made some of the council members retreat to their ship temporarily. They drank bitter black coffee by the gallon. They laughed and argued more. On the second day, when a human scientist suggested using Earth's moon as a giant reflector to bounce a signal into the wave, Ambassador Tay couldn't stay quiet anymore. So you want to risk your only natural satellite? He asked, shocked. June looked up from the diagram he was studying. If it saves the galaxy, it's worth trying. He noticed the alien's stunned expressions and added with a casual shrug, Impossible. Problems just mean we haven't found the right angle yet. The council members looked at each other. These humans weren't cowering in fear. They weren't paralyzed by the enormity of the threat. They were treating it like a puzzle to be solved, a challenge to overcome. For the first time since the energy wave had appeared, Ambassador Tay felt something new, hope. You want to do what to our quantum resonator? Science Director Lin's voice went so high that her translator glitched and made a squeaking noise. Engineer Ha didn't even look up from the alien device she was already taking apart. Her fingers moved quickly, disconnecting glowing blue wires and rearranging crystal components that cost more than an entire human city to make. I'm just making some adjustments, Ha said calmly. Your resonator is built to create perfect stability, but we need controlled instability. It had been 2 weeks since the council delegation arrived at Earth. What was supposed to be a brief meeting had turned into something much bigger. The council had reluctantly agreed to provide humans with some of their most advanced technology to help fight the energy wave. What they hadn't expected was how quickly humans would start taking everything apart. Captain June had assembled what he called his dream team, 30 humans with wildly different backgrounds. There were military strategists and quantum physicists, sure, but also artists, musicians, deep-sea explorers, and even a chef who specialized in molecular gastronomy. Why do you need a food preparer to save the galaxy? Ambassador Tay had asked. In confusion, June smiled. Sue isn't just a chef. He understands how things transform, how combining unexpected elements can create something entirely new. Now the team was spread across 3 levels of Earth Station, working day and night. The station had become part laboratory, part workshop, and part chaotic mess of human creativity. In one room, soldiers tested modified weapons alongside council military advisors. In another, musicians worked with mathematicians to analyze the sound patterns within the energy wave. Somewhere else, artists were creating visual models of the wave's behavior using holographic paint. The council observers watched it all with a mixture of horror and fascination. They sleep at their workstations, one alien whispered to another. They consume that bitter stimulant drink instead of proper nutrition. And the noise, complained another. Always talking, arguing, that strange barking sound they make when amused. June moved between all the groups, connecting ideas, pushing, when needed, and somehow keeping everyone focused on the impossible task. He limped more as the days went on, clearly exhausted but refusing to rest. By the 3rd week, Engineer Ha had created something new. She stood in the main lab, dark circles under her eyes, holding what looked like a mess of alien and human technology fused together. It's ready for testing, she announced to the room full of council officials and human scientists. What exactly is it? Asked Ambassador Tay. Ha held up the device. We call it a wave disruptor. It combines your quantum resonance technology with our electromagnetic pulse weapons, but we've modified both. Modified how? Asked Science Director Lin suspiciously. Well, your quantum tech is designed to maintain perfect balance, to keep everything stable. But the energy wave isn't stable, it's the opposite. So fighting stability with stability wasn't working. Ha pointed to the human components. Our EMP weapons temporarily disrupt electrical systems. We've reconfigured them to create specific disruption patterns instead of just shutting everything down. But the wave isn't electrical, objected Lin. No, but it has a pattern, said June, stepping forward. Show them, Dal. A quiet musician who had barely spoken in 3 weeks projected a sound wave onto the lab wall. This is what the energy wave sounds like when we translate its quantum fluctuations into audio. Strange, haunting sounds filled the room. Not random noise, but something almost like music. And this, Dal continued, is what happens when we play certain counter-harmonies against it. He added another layer of sound. Where the two sound waves met, they cancelled each other out. That's the principle, said Ha, pointing to her device. This creates quantum counter-harmonies. We think it might disrupt the wave's pattern enough to stop it, or at least slow it down. You think? Ambassador Tay looked concerned. You're not certain, June shrugged. We can't be certain until we try it. And if it fails, asked Lin. Then we try something else, said Ha simply. The council representatives had a quick, whispered discussion among themselves. The device must be tested properly, Lin finally said. We'll transport it to our testing facility in the Proxima system. It will take approximately 2 months to run all the necessary safety protocols. The room went silent. Then June started laughing. Actually laughing. 2 months, he said. The wave will have consumed 3 more populated systems by then. Safety. Protocols exist for a reason, Lin insisted. What if your device makes things worse? What if it does? June looked at each alien face. Honestly, how could things get worse than entire worlds being destroyed? The council members shifted uncomfortably. This was why humans unsettled them. This willingness to leap before looking, to take chances that seemed reckless. We have a test site ready, June continued, an uninhabited system near the wave's current path. We've already sent ships there to set up monitoring equipment. Without authorization? Gasped one council member. We're trying to save lives, said Ha. We don't have time for paperwork. Ambassador Tay looked troubled. Captain June, surely you understand the risks. If something goes wrong, then it's on me, said June firmly. I'll lead the test mission myself. For 5 days, the arguments continued. The council insisted on caution. The humans pushed for immediate action. In the end, they reached a compromise, a small test closely monitored by both council and human observers. As the test day approached, June found Ambassador Tay alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. You still think we're reckless, don't you? June asked. Tay was quiet for a moment. I think you're different, he finally said. My species has lived for thousands of years. We've learned that hasty actions often lead to bigger problems. And sometimes being too careful means you do nothing at all, said June. Sometimes you have to take a leap. How do you do it? Asked Tay suddenly. All of you, working under this pressure, knowing what's at stake, how do you not break? June smiled slightly. Oh, we break, we just keep going anyway. As if on cue, they heard a crash from a nearby lab, followed by loud swearing, then laughter. That's humanity for you, said June. We fall down, we get up, we try again. Tay looked thoughtful. Perhaps that is what the galaxy needs right now. The modified Earthship Brave Jump hung in space at the edge of the Lyra system. Through the main viewport, the crew could see the Council blockade. 15 massive warships forming a protective line around the populated planets beyond. And on the other side of the blockade, coming closer every hour, was the energy wave. From this distance it looked almost beautiful, a shifting purple-blue cloud that seemed to shimmer and dance as it moved. Hard to believe something so pretty had already destroyed 7 star systems. On the bridge of the Brave Jump, Captain June looked at his small crew. Just 6 humans, each chosen for their unique skills. Engineer Ha with her modified wave disruptor. Communications specialist Sun with her background in linguistics and music theory. Pilot Jin, whose quick reflexes had saved them twice during the journey here. Dr. Kim, Scientist Dal, and Security Chief Wu completed the team. The Council's not going to let us through willingly, said June, pointing at the blockade on the screen. They've rejected our approach request 3 times. So what's the plan? Asked Security Chief Wu, cleaning his energy pistol more out of habit than necessity. June grinned. We ask again. Very nicely. He opened a communication channel to the lead council ship. Ambassador Tai's face appeared on screen, looking stressed. Captain June, we've been through this. The council has voted. No experimental approaches will be attempted near populated systems. The wave disruptor worked in our test, June argued. It created a temporary hole in the wave. A very small hole that collapsed after 18 seconds, Tay countered. It's Not enough. We're evacuating as many people as possible from the system. How many is as many as possible? Asked June quietly. Tay looked away. About 12% of the population. The bridge went silent. The Lyra system had over 4 billion inhabitants. Let us try, said June. What do you have to lose? The council has spoken, said Tay, though he didn't sound convinced by his own words. I'm sorry. The screen went blank. June turned to pilot Jin. Plan B. Jin's fingers moved across the control panel. Course plotted, but it's risky, really risky. Everything about this mission is risky, said June. Do it. The brave jump suddenly accelerated, not toward the blockade, but away from it. Then it looped around, building speed, and shot straight down, perpendicular to the plane where the council ships were arranged. They're not expecting us to come from below, explained Jin, as alarms started blaring across the bridge. Most space combat happens on a flat plane because it's easier to track. Most space combat doesn't involve humans, said Wu with a grim smile. The council ships tried to reposition, but they were too slow, too big. The brave jump, small and nimble, slipped past them before they could establish a new blockade pattern. We're through, shouted Jin, setting course directly for the wave. On the communication screen, Ambassador Tay appeared again, now looking both angry and impressed. Captain June, what you've done violates at least 15 Galactic Council laws. You can arrest me later, said June calmly, after we save the Lyra system. As they approached the energy wave, the crew prepared the wave disruptor. Ha made last-minute adjustments, her hand steady despite the pressure. It needs to be bigger this time, she muttered. A bigger hole that stays open longer. You can do it, said June, putting a hand on her shoulder. The wave loomed larger in their viewport. No, longer, pretty but terrifying. Close up, they could see how it consumed everything. Asteroids, space debris, even light itself seemed to bend and disappear into it. Disruptor ready, announced Ha. Take us in closer, ordered June. Jin looked at him in shock. Closer? We're already at the minimum safe distance. We need to be right at the edge for maximum effect, said June. Trust me. The ship edged forward. Now the wave filled their entire view. Strange patterns moved within it, almost like... Are those symbols? Said Sun suddenly, pointing at the screen. There's a pattern repeating. Before anyone could respond, Ha activated the wave disruptor. The device hummed loudly, vibrating. The whole ship. A beam of energy shot out, hitting the wave directly in front of them. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a hole opened in the wave, a perfect circle of clear space. It's working, shouted Ha. Move us in, ordered June. Into the hole, are you crazy? Jin's hands hovered over the controls. Do it. The brave jump slipped into the hole in the wave. As soon as they entered, the ship's systems went haywire. Lights flickered. Gravity failed. The communication system died completely. We've lost contact with the council ships, reported Sun, trying to restore the system. Focus on what's in front of us, said June, floating in the zero gravity. What are those patterns? The hole they'd created was small, a bubble of normal space, surrounded by the strange energy of the wave. And within that energy, now clearly visible all around them, were definite patterns. Symbols, shapes that repeated and changed in sequences. Sun stared at her screen, eyes wide. It's language, she whispered. It has to be. These patterns are too ordered, too consistent to be random. The wave is talking, asked Wu skeptically. Not the wave, said Sun. Something inside it or behind it, using it. For hours, as the hole slowly started to close around them, Sun worked frantically. To decipher the patterns, she fed them into the ship's computer, comparing them to every known language in the galaxy. Nothing matched. I need something totally different, she said finally. Something uniquely human. She pulled out a small device and plugged it into the console. Music filled the bridge, classic Earth songs from across cultures and centuries. What are you doing? Asked scientist Dal. Music is mathematical, Sun explained, her fingers flying over her keyboard, and it's a universal language in its own way. I'm using it as a base pattern to establish communication. She selected one song, an old melody with a simple repeating structure. She converted it to visual patterns and sent it out toward the wave. For a long moment, nothing happened. The hull continued to shrink around them. Alarm warnings flashed as the ship's hull began to feel the pressure. Then, suddenly, new patterns appeared in the wave. Different but somehow responding to the music. They're answering. Sun exclaimed. Back and forth the exchange went. Music converted to patterns, patterns returning in new configurations. Slowly, painfully slowly, Sun began to understand. They're trapped, she said finally, her voice filled with wonder. It's not a weapon or a natural disaster. It's a distress signal. According to what Sun could decipher, the wave was created by beings from another dimension whose universe was collapsing. The wave was their attempt to break through, to find new space to survive. They hadn't realized they were destroying inhabited worlds. Can you tell them to stop? Asked June. Sun nodded and sent more patterns, explaining about the worlds being destroyed. The response came quickly, patterns that even the others could now recognize as showing regret, horror. They want to help fix what they've done, said Sun. They're asking how. As the ship's systems began to fail completely, Sun and the beings inside the wave reached an understanding. The wave would change course, avoiding populated systems. In return, the humans would help find uninhabited space where these dimensional refugees could safely cross over. Just as the hole closed completely around them, the wave suddenly shifted. It moved away from the brave jump, away from the Lyra system. The ship tumbled out into normal space, systems rebooting one by one. On the brave jump's damaged bridge, the exhausted crew looked at each other in disbelief. We did it, said Jin quietly. We actually did it. June nodded, too tired to speak. They had done more than save a system. They had made first contact with beings from another dimension entirely. When communications finally came back online, the Council ships were waiting, weapons ready. But behind them, the wave was already moving away, following a new path through empty space. Captain June, said Ambassador Tay on screen, his voice filled with disbelief. What have you done? Made some new friends, June replied with a tired smile. It's what humans do best. The Grand Council chamber was the oldest structure in the galaxy. Its massive dome was made from crystals mined from 1,000 worlds. The walls were carved with the history of galactic civilization, each image telling the story of another millennium of progress and peace. But today, the ancient chamber was anything but peaceful. Order! I demand order! Shouted Head Counselor Dak, banging his ceremonial staff against the floor. The sound echoed through the chamber, but the shouting continued. 3 weeks had passed since the events at the Lyra system. The energy wave had changed course as promised, avoiding all populated worlds. It now moved through empty regions of space, following a path carefully plotted by both human and Council scientists. But that wasn't what caused the uproar in the Council chamber today. The cause was standing right in the center of the room, Captain June and his crew from the Brave Jump, and beside them, floating in specially designed containment fields, were 3 shimmering translucent beings, representatives of what humans were now calling the Void Dwellers. These beings from another dimension couldn't exist in normal space without help. They looked like swirling clouds of purple-blue light, constantly shifting and reforming. When they communicated, the air around them vibrated with strange harmonies that Sun's translation device converted to words. Impossible, shouted the representative from the ancient Menkari collective. These creatures cannot be here. They are the devourers from the old texts. The prophecies warned of their return, cried another council member. They are the end of all things. It turned out that the Void Dwellers weren't entirely unknown to the galaxy. In ancient times, thousands of years before humans had even discovered fire, there had been another dimensional breach. The records were fragmentary and mixed with religious texts, but the stories told of great destruction followed by a war that pushed the devourers back into their own realm. Please, said Sun, standing protectively near the containment fields. They're not devourers or destroyers. They're refugees. Their dimension is dying. They're just trying to survive. By consuming our worlds, shouted someone from the back of the chamber. One of the Void Dwellers pulsed with light, and Sun's translator converted the harmonies. We did not know. We did not understand that our passage was causing destruction. We grieve for those lost. We wish to make amends. The chamber erupted again, voices shouting over each other. Some council members wanted the Void Dwellers destroyed immediately. Others wanted them imprisoned and studied. A few called for their immediate banishment back to their dying dimension. Through it all, Captain June stood quietly in the center watching. His crew stayed close to the Void Dwellers, protecting them. Finally, when Head Councillor Dak had shouted himself nearly hoarse trying to restore order, June stepped forward. The chamber quieted. Despite everything, there was a new respect for humans after what had happened at Lyra. Everyone wanted to hear what this human captain would say. 3 weeks ago, June began, his voice carrying easily through the huge space. You came to Earth asking for help. You were facing what you thought was an unstoppable disaster. Your finest minds had failed to find a solution. He looked around, the chamber, meeting the many different types of eyes watching him. We didn't solve your problem with better weapons or technology. We solved it by doing what humans have always done, adapting, listening, and refusing to accept that anything is impossible. June gestured to the Void Dwellers floating beside him. These beings aren't your ancient enemies. They're not monsters or devourers. They're people, different from you and me, yes, but still people. They have families. They have hopes and fears. They're watching their entire world die around them. He paused, letting his words sink in. Isn't that exactly what you feared when you came to us? That your worlds would die? That your people would suffer? How are they any different? A thoughtful silence fell over the chamber. Even the angriest council members seemed to be considering his words. What would you have us do? Asked Head Councillor Dak finally. Our space is limited, our resources stretched thin already. There are solutions, said June. The Void Dwellers can exist in parts of space that are uninhabitable to any of us. The centers of nebulae, the spaces between galaxies, they need very little, just a safe passage from their dimension to ours. Engineer Ha stepped forward, holding a small device. We've already designed a controlled dimensional gateway. It will allow them to cross over safely, without the destructive energy wave. And they've agreed to share their dimensional technology with us. Share technology? The science director, Lin, leaned forward, suddenly interested. What kind of technology? Ways. To fold space, said Ha. To create shortcuts through the universe. To potentially reach other galaxies without spending lifetimes traveling. That got everyone's attention. The Council had been trying to develop such technology for thousands of years without success. For days the debates continued, but the tone had changed. What started as fear and anger slowly transformed into cautious curiosity. The Void Dwellers patiently answered endless questions. They expressed genuine remorse for the destroyed systems and offered their knowledge as compensation. Finally, after a full week of discussion, the Council voted. By a narrow margin, they agreed to allow the Void Dwellers' sanctuary in specified, uninhabitable regions in exchange for their dimensional technology, and in an unprecedented move, they voted to elevate Earth from junior member to full Council status, with all the privileges that entailed. Your species has proven itself, said Head Councillor Dak in the formal ceremony that followed. In just a few weeks, you have accomplished what our oldest civilizations could not. You have made peace where we saw only war. You have found life where we saw only destruction. After the ceremony, as the humans prepared to return to Earth, Ambassador Tay found June alone in one of the Council gardens. I still don't fully understand, said Tay, sitting beside the human captain. Why did you do it? Why risk everything for beings you had never met, for species that aren't even from our universe? June looked up at the stars visible through the garden's transparent dome. Somewhere out there, the first controlled dimensional gateway was being built. Somewhere out there, beings from another universe were preparing to start a new life. Because someday we might need help too, he said. Simply, and that's the universe we want to live in. One where someone answers the call. Tay considered this. You know, when we first discovered humans, many on the Council thought you were too aggressive, too unpredictable to join galactic society. Some still think that. And what do you think? Asked June. Tay's expression softened. I think the galaxy needed a little unpredictability, a little human chaos. He stood and performed the formal council bow of respect. Thank you, Captain June, for teaching us to look at old problems in new ways. As Tai walked away, June smiled to himself. Humans had earned their place among the stars not through superior firepower or ancient wisdom, but through the very qualities that made other species nervous: their creativity, their stubborn refusal to give up, and their willingness to take chances. In the end, when the Galactic Council needed help, only humans had stepped up, and the universe would never be quite the same again.